Kai leaned back in his chair, letting the soft hum of the colony's life support system wash over him. From his viewport, the stars stretched endlessly, tiny specks of light scattered across the black velvet of space. The human colony, Orion's Reach, orbited a distant star, far from Earth, yet bustling with life. Hovering drones moved in precise patterns, repairing solar panels and checking the external hull. Despite the technological efficiency, there was a quiet loneliness here that no AI could fix. He tapped a message to his friend, Lyra, whose voice always carried a calm steadiness that he envied. She was a xenobiologist, stationed on a research wing orbiting a nearby asteroid cluster. Their calls were usually about work, about equipment, or about observations of alien life forms. But today, for some reason, Kai wanted to make her laugh. "Move in with me?" He typed quickly, adding a laughing emoji, hoping she'd understand it as a joke. He leaned back and sighed. He shouldn't have said it. It sounded ridiculous even to him. He had his little quarters, the neat arrangement of tools, data pads, and personal keepsakes, and it was enough. Moving in with anyone, well, that was complicated in space, sharing oxygen systems, food supplies, and life support routines was no small matter. But he couldn't help the small part of him that wondered, what if she said yes? On the other end of the communication line, Lyra froze. Her fingers hovered over the interface. She blinked. The message felt different. He had joked yes, but what if he wasn't joking entirely? The thought tugged at her more than she expected. She had spent long months in isolation aboard her station, studying alien plant-like organisms that seemed incapable of human contact or understanding. Her days were filled with calculations, recordings, and routine maintenance, but nights were quiet. Painfully quiet. Kai's joke echoed in her mind as she walked through the narrow corridors of the research station, her boots making soft clinks against the metallic floor. A tiny smile tugged at her lips. For the first time in weeks, she imagined having a human beside her, someone who understood not just the science, but the human moments in between. Meanwhile, Kai stared at the empty viewport, pretending not to care. The colony's daily operations buzzed around him. Drones zipped across the outer hull, repairing tiny fractures in the solar panels caused by micrometeoroid strikes. Automated systems hummed, lights flickered, and the quiet voice of the colony AI reminded him of tasks he needed to complete. Oxygen filters require routine inspection, it said in its monotone voice. Solar panel Sector 3 reports minor anomalies. He clicked through the logs with automatic efficiency. Yet, despite all the data and schedules, his mind kept wandering back to Lyra's laugh, the way her voice softened when she explained her research, and the faint hope in her eyes when she discovered something new about alien life. She was brilliant, kind, and, in her quiet way, incredibly human, and now he had thrown a ridiculous question at her. He shook his head and laughed softly, a sound that felt strange in the silence of his quarters. "Of course she'll ignore it," he muttered to himself. It was a joke, just a joke. But some part of him, the part he didn't like to admit, hoped she wouldn't. Lyra's reply didn't come immediately. The delay made his fingers twitch nervously. He returned to his work, scanning the colony's exterior for structural stress, noting every minor crack and anomaly. Each ping from his instruments was a reminder of the fragile beauty of human life in space. One wrong calculation, one malfunctioning system, and everything could fall apart. But Kai wasn't thinking about failures. He was thinking about her. Across the void, Lyra finally typed a reply. "Was that serious?" The words appeared on Kai's screen, simple, small, yet heavy with implication. Kai stared at them. Serious, he had meant it as a joke, yet there it was, plain and unavoidable. The truth was, he didn't know if he had been serious. Maybe part of him had hoped it could be true. He leaned forward and typed, deleting his first attempts because they sounded too casual or too nervous. Finally, he settled on, "I guess maybe. I didn't think you'd take it seriously." There. Neutral. Non-committal. Safe. Yet as soon as he sent it, he regretted it. It sounded like he was unsure. And he was. But more than that, he realized something important. He wanted her to consider it. Lyra read his message and smiled faintly, that small note of hesitation. It was human, real, flawed but alive. In a place where machines calculated and analyzed every situation with perfect logic, human hesitation was a rare treasure. She appreciated the imperfection. Meanwhile, life in the colony went on. Kai spent the rest of the day performing routine maintenance, checking airlocks, calibrating sensors, and inspecting communication relays. Every task reminded him that humanity survived not because of perfection, but because of ingenuity, persistence, and trust. He remembered stories from Earth. Old accounts of explorers surviving extreme conditions by relying on each other, by improvising, by daring to trust their instincts. He thought of Lyra and wondered if she felt the same courage in him. Hours later, the colony's observation deck glowed with the soft light of distant stars. Kai wandered there, letting the silence stretch around him. A part of him imagined Lyra stepping through the hatch, carrying her research packs, smiling and saying, "Maybe I'll take you up on that offer." He laughed quietly at the thought, shaking his head. The absurdity of imagining someone sharing a life in space among oxygen tanks, solar panels, and life support systems was almost too much. And yet a strange warmth filled him at the possibility. Meanwhile, Lyra walked through her own observation room, her eyes tracing the asteroid belt that sparkled like shattered glass. She could see the colony in the distance, small, fragile, yet alive. It felt inviting, safe, human, and maybe, just maybe, Kai wasn't joking entirely that night. As the colony's lights dimmed to conserve energy and the AI shifted into low-power mode, Kai and Lyra both stared at the stars. Far apart, yet connected by a single silly message. A joke that wasn't entirely a joke. A question that held more weight than either of them had intended. Somewhere deep inside, Kai felt a small spark of hope. And Lyra, despite her professional focus and scientific rigor, felt it too. The universe was vast, dangerous, lonely. But for the first time in a long while, they both imagined that maybe it didn't have to be. Maybe, just maybe, there was room for something human in the midst of all the machines, metal, and starlight. The next morning, Kai woke up to the soft hum of the colony's life support system. Light from the nearby star filtered through the viewport, casting a pale glow over his quarters. The day promised routine, checking solar arrays, updating system logs, and making sure the oxygen levels were optimal. Yet, in the back of his mind, a small thought refused to leave. Lyra's message was that serious? He had read it a dozen times, each time feeling a mix of panic and hope. He hadn't intended for her to consider it seriously. And yet, the way she asked, with a quiet sincerity, made him pause. He realized he couldn't just dismiss it as he moved through the colony's corridors. The usual hum of machinery and the occasional voice from the AI, Athena, filled the space. Kai's sector for a solar panel inspection is due. Oxygen filter requires recalibration. He nodded absent-mindedly, barely hearing it. The colony's routines felt smaller somehow, insignificant compared to the thought of Lyra potentially accepting his offer by mid-morning. His communicator beeped again. This time, it was Lyra. A video call. He hesitated, then tapped the interface. Her face appeared, framed by the glow of her research station. "Hi," she said, smiling softly. "I've been thinking about your offer." Kai blinked. Offer." His voice cracked slightly, betraying his nerves. "Yes," she said, tilting her head. "The move-in with me thing. I wasn't sure if you were joking entirely, or, well, maybe it was half serious. I wanted to know." Kai swallowed. "Half serious?" That was about right. I didn't think you'd actually consider it," he admitted. "I was joking. Mostly. But now that you're asking?" He trailed off, unsure how to finish. Lyra laughed quietly. "I know. I was joking too in my own way. But the idea? It's not terrible." Kai's chest tightened. Her words weren't a definite yes, but they were closer than he expected. For the first time in months, he felt that spark of excitement humans often spoke of in old Earth stories. hope. Over the next few days, the two of them began planning. It wasn't simple. Space travel between the research station and the colony required careful coordination. Supplies had to be calculated precisely. Oxygen, food, and energy packs couldn't be wasted. But as they communicated, something shifted. Their conversations, once strictly professional, became personal. They shared small details about their daily routines, favorite datapads, childhood stories, meals they missed from Earth, dreams they had never admitted aloud. Kai found himself laughing more than usual. Lyra's presence, even across the void, made the colony feel warmer, more alive. He realized he had been isolating himself, wrapped in routines and tasks, because he feared letting anyone get too close. But now, with Lyra's quiet insistence, he felt the possibility of connection, human, real and tangible. Meanwhile, Lyra prepared for the journey to the colony. Her research packs were carefully packed, each instrument checked and double-checked. She thought about the conversation they had, Kai's nervous laughter, his honest words, and the little spark of hope she felt from his message. She wasn't used to relying on someone else. But something about Kai made it feel safe. The journey itself was short but tense. As her shuttle approached the colony, she watched the familiar shape of Orion's reach grow larger in the viewport. The solar arrays glinted in the star's light, and the hull shimmered like a jewel. The colony seemed alive, a testament to human ingenuity. And soon, she would be part of that life. Kai waited at the docking bay, checking his equipment, but mostly keeping his mind on her arrival. When the shuttle's hatch finally opened, Lyra stepped through. Carrying a small backpack and a confident smile, "Kai," she said, her voice calm but warm, "I hope you're ready for this." "I think so," he admitted, trying to sound casual but failing. His heart pounded. The colony had seen emergencies, accidents, even system failures, but nothing compared to the nervous excitement of having someone cared about enter his life. Lyra set her pack down and looked around. The colony's corridors were narrow but well lit, filled with soft mechanical hums and the occasional flicker of automated lighting. "It's smaller than I imagined," she said. Kai chuckled. "Welcome to my life. It's not luxurious, but it works." Her smile softened. "It's perfect." For the next few days, they settled into a routine. Life support systems required regular monitoring. Solar arrays needed constant maintenance, and the colony's AI reminded them of every small task. Yet, amidst all the work, there was laughter, shared meals, and quiet moments spent watching the stars from the observation deck. They discovered something remarkable. When humans work together, combining their skills and intuition, they accomplished things no AI could manage alone. Kai's engineering knowledge paired with Lyra's biological expertise allowed them to optimize oxygen, recycling systems in ways that saved energy and increased efficiency. Small adjustments here and there made a big difference, and the colony's systems seemed to respond almost as if they appreciated the human touch. One evening, while monitoring a new energy distribution system, Kai paused. "You know," he said, "I never realized how much life you could bring to a place like this. It's usually just machines and logs." Lyra smiled. "Humans have a way of doing that," she said simply. "Even in space." It was true. Their presence together, two humans in the vastness of space, changed the colony. Other residents noticed it too. Engineers, scientists, and AI operators began to see the benefits of collaboration, empathy, and human intuition. It was subtle at first, suggestions made more freely, mistakes corrected with understanding, solutions improvised in ways no algorithm could predict. Then, the first warning alarms went off. "A solar flare is approaching," Athena's calm voice announced. Intensity projected to exceed expected levels. "Protective measures recommended." Kai and Lyra exchanged a glance. They had faced emergencies before, but this was different. A solar flare strong enough could disrupt energy grids, fry electronic systems, and put lives at risk. They immediately sprang into action, working together to activate shielding systems, reroute power, and secure sensitive equipment. The collaboration was intense. Kai managed the mechanical adjustments, while Lyra monitored energy flows and biological safety systems. Their movements were synchronized, a dance of human ingenuity against the indifferent forces of the universe. Through the crisis, Kai realized something important. No AI, no automated system, no algorithm could replicate the human ability to improvise under pressure, to combine intuition, empathy, and quick thinking in ways that machines could not predict. And Lyra, standing beside him, exemplified that. When the flare passed, the colony was intact, systems humming as usual, and the humans themselves, exhausted but triumphant. They had survived because of their courage, intelligence, and the strength of working together. Later, in the quiet aftermath, Kai and Lyra stood on the observation deck. The stars were bright, unbothered by the human struggle below. Kai looked at her, his chest still pounding from the adrenaline. "You know," he said softly, "I wasn't sure if this moving-in thing would work. But now I see. Humans can do amazing things, especially together." I smiled, reaching out to touch his arm gently. "I know, and I'm glad I trusted you." And the idea? For the first time, the vastness of space didn't feel lonely. It felt full of possibilities, full of hope. And somewhere deep inside, both of them knew this was just the beginning. Outside, the colony hummed with life, the lights reflecting on the metallic walls and solar arrays. Humanity had made its mark here, against all odds, and for Kai and Lyra. It was more than survival, it was the beginning of connection, partnership, and something uniquely human, in a universe full of danger. Isolation and machines, they had each other, and that made all the difference. Life in the colony had settled into a rhythm. Kai and Lyra moved through the narrow corridors of Orion's Reach like a well-practiced team. Every day brought new tasks, new systems to monitor, and new ways for humans to prove that no AI could match their ingenuity. Yet beneath the routines, a quiet tension simmered, a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and something deeper neither had admitted yet. Kai's quarters, once a private refuge filled with neatly stacked tools and datapads, now held an extra set of belongings. Lyra's research equipment, a few personal mementos, and a carefully packed sleeping module. It wasn't much, but in the cramped space of the colony, it symbolized a profound change. Human connection. Lyra unpacked her modules and set up her workbench near Kai's. The two of them often worked side by side, exchanging ideas and troubleshooting problems. She was fascinated by the mechanical systems of the colony, and he was intrigued by her biological research. Together, they explored ways to improve oxygen recycling, conserve energy, and optimize food production. Their collaboration became the kind of synergy humans had been praised for centuries: intuition, combined with knowledge, creativity paired with experience. One afternoon, as they checked the colony's external sensors, Kai noticed a flicker on the monitor. "Sector 5's hull pressure readings are fluctuating," he said, pointing at the screen. "Could be a micrometeoroid strike. We should check it." Lyra nodded, grabbing a portable sensor. "Let's go. I'll scan for any biological contamination while you handle structural integrity." They donned their exosuits and stepped into the airlock. Outside, the colony gleamed under the distant star. Solar panels reflecting pale light, metallic walls stretching like a fortress against the void. Floating in zero gravity required careful coordination. Kai adjusted tether lines, while Lyra floated gracefully beside him. Her movements precise yet fluid. Together, they repaired minor damage caused by stray space debris. As they worked, Kai realized how natural it felt to have Lyra beside him. Her calm focus balanced his restless energy. She noticed tiny details he often missed, and he applied practical fixes she couldn't manage alone. Alone, each would have struggled. Together, they thrived. When they returned inside, covered in a fine layer of space dust, they laughed quietly. the sound echoing in the metallic corridors. "You make this look too easy," Kai said, shaking his gloved hands. Lyra grinned. "And you make it look fun." The colony wasn't just surviving, it was improving. Their teamwork inspired others. Engineers began coordinating with scientists more frequently. AI operators noted that human intuition often prevented minor malfunctions from becoming critical. The small, human-led adjustments to energy grids, oxygen filters, and solar arrays enhanced efficiency far beyond what automated calculations predicted. One evening, as the colony's artificial sunset bathed the observation deck in orange light, Kai and Lyra stood side by side, staring at the stars. The distant galaxy shimmered, a reminder of the vastness beyond their fragile home, you know? Kai said, breaking the silence. "I never realized how much life a human can bring to this place. Machines are precise, predictable, but they don't inspire." Lyra nodded. "Humans thrive in unpredictability. We improvise, we care, and sometimes we surprise ourselves." Kai chuckled softly. "I suppose that's true. I've learned a lot from having you here." Lyra's smile was quiet but warm. "And I from you. You remind me why humans survive, even in space." The quiet intimacy between them grew slowly. Small gesture says shared cup of recycled coffee. A glance across the observation deck, hand brushing against the other while securing a tether line built trust and familiarity. They were not just coworkers. They were companions navigating a fragile, hostile environment together. Then came the first real challenge. The colony's energy grid experienced fluctuations. It's minor at first, but growing steadily. Lights dimmed in certain sectors, and AI warnings flashed intermittently. "Sector 3 power output is unstable," Athena reported calmly. "Recommended immediate manual inspection." Kai and Lyra exchanged a glance. This was beyond routine maintenance. It required quick thinking and precise coordination. "We'll need to reroute energy through the auxiliary lines," Kai said, already pulling up schematics. "I'll handle the mechanical relays. You monitor the distribution network?" Lyra nodded. "Let's move." For hours they worked together, floating through the colony's corridors, adjusting power lines, recalibrating circuits, and balancing energy output. The AI provided data, but the decisions were human. Judgment calls, small improvisations, and intuition. Machines could calculate efficiency, but they couldn't anticipate human error, nor could they adjust systems creatively under unpredictable conditions. Finally, the power stabilized. Lights returned to full brightness, life support systems normalized, and the colony's hum resumed its steady rhythm. Exhausted but satisfied, Kai and Lyra leaned against a bulkhead. "Sharing a quiet laugh, you know," Kai said. "We might actually make a good team here." Lyra smiled. "I think we already do." The next few days brought minor crises: a malfunctioning oxygen filter, small breach in the thermal shielding, and unexpected fluctuations in the colony's water recycling system. Each time, Kai and Lyra confronted the problems together, relying on their combined expertise. And each time, they succeeded. Other colonists began noticing the change. The human touch, creativity, empathy, intuition was not just helpful, it was essential. The AI systems could manage calculations, but they couldn't manage trust, improvisation, or understanding. Kai and Lyra demonstrated that humanity thrived, not despite technology. But alongside it, one evening, after a long day of repairs, Kai and Lyra found themselves on the observation deck again. Silence stretched around them, broken only by the faint hum of life support systems. "You know," Lyra said softly, "I didn't expect moving in here would feel like this. Full of life, not just tasks." Kai smiled, leaning back against the railing. "I didn't expect it either. I thought it was a joke, but I'm glad you came. It's better than I imagined." Lyra glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. "Better than you imagined? That sounds promising." Kai laughed quietly. "I guess it is. Humans have a way of surprising even themselves." The two of them watched the stars in silence, sharing a quiet understanding. Life in the colony was dangerous, unpredictable, and demanding. But together, they felt capable of facing anything. And in that moment, the vast universe seemed a little smaller, a little warmer, and infinitely more human. The next morning, Athena's calm voice interrupted their breakfast. Attention! An asteroid cluster is approaching proximity threshold. Navigation protocols suggest minor trajectory adjustments. Kai and Lyra exchanged glances. Another challenge, another opportunity to prove humanity's resilience. Side by side, they moved to the command center, reviewing data and planning adjustments. As they worked, Kai thought about how far they had come. Just weeks ago, their interactions were casual, tentative. Now, they trusted each other implicitly, relying on both skill and intuition. Human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage were proving vital in a colony that depended on both technology and human decision-making. Lyra noticed his expression. Thinking again? She asked. Just realizing, Kai said, humans are amazing. We can survive, adapt, and thrive, even in space. And sometimes, we surprise ourselves. Lyra smiled. We do, and it's better when we do it together. The asteroid cluster passed without incident, the colony adjusting its trajectory smoothly under their guidance. Once the warning cleared, they sat back, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Kai turned to Lyra. You know, this is more than I ever expected from a silly joke. Lyra laughed softly. I'd say it's more than a joke now. And in that moment, amidst the metallic corridors, solar panels, and the endless stars outside, the two of them realized something essential. Humanity thrived not in isolation, but in connection, trust, and shared effort. No AI, no automated system could replace that. It was uniquely, brilliantly human. Together, they were stronger, braver, and more alive than ever before. The morning started like any other, with the hum of Orion's Reach's life support systems filling the corridors. Kai and Lyra had grown comfortable with their routines. Repairs, monitoring, and small experiments filled their days. But the colony now ran more smoothly because of their collaboration. Humans, it seemed, had a unique ability to improvise in ways no AI could match. But space never stayed predictable for long. Athena's calm voice cut through the quiet. Warning, solar flare activity detected. Predicted intensity exceeds operational threshold. Protective measures required. Kai froze for a moment. They had faced minor power fluctuations before, but this was different. A full-intensity solar flare could fry circuits, destroy communication systems, and endanger life support operations. The colony would survive if humans acted quickly and precisely. Lyra's eyes narrowed. We need to secure the energy grid and shield critical systems. I'll monitor biological support systems and energy distribution. You handle the mechanical relays and structural reinforcements, nodded, his heart pounding. Together, they moved through the corridors, donning protective exosuits and gathering emergency tools. Every step required precision. In zero gravity, even the smallest miscalculation could send someone tumbling into a wall or worse. The first warning hit moments. Later, a spike in the energy grid readings. Lights flickered. Auxiliary power kicked in, but it wasn't enough. Systems began shutting down in non-critical areas to conserve energy. Kai floated to the central relay hub, adjusting mechanical circuits, tightening relays, and rerouting power manually. Sweat formed under his helmet, a reminder that even in space, humans could feel pressure and fatigue. Lyra's station displayed the colony's life support systems. Oxygen filters, water recycling units, and temperature regulators were all being tested by the flare's radiation. She adjusted energy flows, recalibrated sensors, and rerouted auxiliary power. Her hands moved confidently over the control panel, checking and double-checking every variable. The flare intensified, and alarms blared throughout the colony. Athena's calm voice warned of critical temperature fluctuations in Sector 5. We need to vent excess heat manually, Kai shouted over the alarms. Lyra, Can you stabilize the oxygen flow while I open the vents? Yes, Lyra replied, working rapidly. The airlock's heat exchange system responded slowly, but she adjusted the flow with precision, preventing a sudden pressure drop that could have endangered the colony. Minutes stretched like hours. Every decision mattered. One wrong adjustment, one miscalculation, and the colony could face catastrophic failure. Kai glanced at Lyra. Her focus unwavering, eyes locked on the readings, fingers moving like they had been born to this task. I couldn't do this without you, he admitted, voice strained. She gave him a quick nod. We're in this together. Humans survive because we collaborate. It was true. They were not just relying on training or experience. They were relying on human intuition, improvisation, and trust. The AI provided data and analysis, but the solutions came from them. Machines could calculate the probability of failure, but they could not anticipate creative. Real-time adjustments humans made under pressure. A sudden surge in the grid caused a mechanical relay to spark. Kai lunged forward, pulling it free just before the circuit blew. A wave of heat washed over him, but he ignored it, focusing on the next task. Lyra recalculated energy distribution, redirecting power to critical systems while keeping life support stable. Outside, solar flare painted the viewport with pale, ghostly light. The stars flickered behind the radiation storm as if the universe itself were watching their struggle. Hours passed. Every corner of the colony required attention. Minor breaches in thermal shielding were patched. Auxiliary power lines were reinforced. Oxygen and water flows were stabilized. It was exhausting, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. Finally, the flare's intensity began to decrease. The alarms slowed, and systems started to normalize. Athena reported, all critical systems stable. Minor non-critical malfunctions detected. No casualties. Kai exhaled, floating in the relay hub, helmet fogged from exertion. Lyra approached him, eyes wide but bright with adrenaline. We did it, she said softly. Kai nodded, a rare smile breaking through his fatigue. Humans did it, he corrected. Not machines. Not AIS. They both laughed quietly, relief mixing with exhaustion. Around them, the colony's lights returned to full brightness. The hum of life support systems, steady once more. In the aftermath, colonists emerged from their stations, checking systems and equipment. Many looked at Kai and Lyra with newfound respect. Their actions had not only stabilized the colony, but demonstrated something essential. Human ingenuity and collaboration could solve problems no algorithm could predict. Kai and Lyra walked through the corridors, helping colleagues inspect equipment, calibrate sensors, and repair minor damage. Even in exhaustion, they shared a quiet satisfaction. Humanity thrived in these moments of pressure, adapting, improvising, and surviving. Later, in the observation deck, they sat together in silence. The stars outside were calm, distant, and indifferent. The storm had passed, but the memory of it lingered. You know, Kai said quietly, I never thought a silly offer would lead to this. Lyra glanced at him, smiling faintly. What do you mean? Moving in. Working together. Surviving a solar flare. It's more than I imagined. Humans, even in space, can do incredible things when we trust each other. Lyra's eyes softened. I agree. And I'm glad I trusted you. And the idea. For a long moment, they sat side by side, reflecting on what they had accomplished. Humanity, fragile yet adaptable, was proving its strength. Machines could calculate and predict, but it was human courage, intuition, and collaboration that made survival possible. The colony, too, had changed. Systems were repaired, routines optimized, and morale lifted. Colonists realized that even in a place dominated by technology, human presence was essential. Trust, creativity, and improvisation became the new standard. Kai and Lyra shared a quiet laugh, acknowledging the absurdity of surviving extreme radiation storms while also learning to rely on each other. Yet beneath the humor was a deeper truth. Humans were remarkable, resilient, and capable of thriving in environments no one would expect. That night, as the colony rested, Kai and Lyra stood once more on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, quiet and eternal. Humans are amazing, Kai said softly. Lyra nodded. We survive, we adapt, and we thrive. Together, for the first time in weeks, both of them felt the vastness of space as a place of possibility, not just danger. They had faced a true crisis, and they had survived. Not because of AI or technology alone, but because of what it meant to be human: courage, ingenuity, and trust. Kai reached out, brushing a gloved hand against hers. I think we make a good team. Lyra smiled, squeezing his hand lightly. The best. And I wouldn't want anyone else by my side in this colony. Outside, the stars gleamed, unchanging and distant. Inside, humanity thrived undaunted by isolation, challenges, or danger. Kai and Lyra, side by side, were proof that in a universe full of machines and unpredictability, human ingenuity and heart could prevail. And in the quiet glow of the observation deck, they both realized something essential. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but humans, together, could face anything. The colony had settled into a new rhythm after the solar flare. Life support systems hummed steadily, energy grids were stabilized, and minor repairs had been completed. Yet for Kai and Lyra, something had changed deeper than the routines. They had faced a crisis together, relied on each other's skills, and survived. And now, the quiet bond that had grown between them felt undeniable. Kai sat at his workbench, examining sensor logs from the external hull. The colony's AI, Athena, had completed its analysis of the solar flare's impact. All critical systems are stable, it reported. Efficiency of energy redistribution improved by 12%. Kai smiled faintly. Efficiency was important, but what mattered more was that humans had made it work. Machines calculated numbers. Humans had calculated courage, trust, and improvisation. Lyra appeared behind him, holding a small cup of recycled coffee. You've been at it for hours, she said softly. Time to take a break. Kai glanced at her, gratitude filling his chest. Thanks. I don't know what I would have done without you. Lyra smiled, her expression gentle. We did it together. That's the point. Humans survive because we work together, Kai. He chuckled. I suppose that's true. For a while, they simply sat together, sipping coffee and watching the stars. Beyond the viewport, the galaxy stretched endlessly, indifferent to human struggles. But within the walls of Orion's reach, humanity had left its mark. Small, fragile, imperfect, but alive. Over the next few days, the colony returned to normal operations. Minor crises were managed quickly, and efficiency continued to improve thanks to Kai and Lyra's interventions. Colonists began to rely more on human collaboration, realizing that AI alone could not predict every eventuality. Creativity, adaptability, and trust were as essential to survival as oxygen and energy. Kai and Lyra spent more time together, learning the small rhythms of daily life in the colony. They shared meals, swapped stories about Earth, and discussed the mysteries of the universe. Their conversations, once technical and practical, became personal and intimate. They laughed over small mistakes, celebrated small victories, quietly appreciated each other's presence. One evening, as they floated in the observation deck, Kai spoke first. Lyra, about that joke I made, he said, voice hesitant. Lyra tilted her head, curious. The move-in thing. Yes, Kai replied, rubbing the back of his neck. I didn't think you'd take it seriously, and now I realize I'm glad you did. Because having you here, it's more than I expected. Lyra smiled softly. I'm glad I trusted you, Kai, and your joke. It led to this working together, surviving, being here with each other. Kai felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet certainty that had been growing since her arrival. Humans are incredible, he said. We survive, adapt, and create solutions no one expects. And sometimes, we find someone worth trusting completely. Lyra reached out, brushing her gloved hand against his. I think we found that for each other. The moment was simple, yet profound. In the vast emptiness of space, with stars stretching infinitely beyond the viewport, two humans had created connection, trust, and hope. As the days passed, their bond deepened. They coordinated colony tasks seamlessly, anticipating each other's moves. When minor malfunctions arose, they responded as one. When supplies needed adjustment, they calculated together, blending intuition with knowledge. Other colonists noticed too. Kai and Lyra became an example of what humanity could achieve when working together. Small teams began collaborating more effectively. Efficiency rose. Systems were optimized. Life in the colony was safer, smoother, and more human. But more importantly, Kai and Lyra began to understand something fundamental about survival in space. It wasn't just about maintaining oxygen levels or fixing solar panels. It was about connection, courage, empathy. One afternoon, while inspecting the water recycling system, Kai paused. "You know," he said, "we've done all this, survived flares, optimized systems, fixed malfunctions, but I think the biggest difference we've made is to each other." Lyra looked at him, eyes reflecting the pale light of the station. "I agree. And it's not just us. Everyone benefits when humans collaborate, care, and trust one another." Kai smiled, leaning back against the wall. "Humans really are something. Even in space, with all this technology, it's us. It's always been us." Lyra nodded. "And that's why we thrive. Not because of machines, not because of calculations, but because of human ingenuity, empathy, and courage." As they finished their inspection, Athena's calm voice announced a minor adjustment in the colony's energy redistribution system. Kai and Lyra exchanged a glance and laughed quietly. Even routine alerts now felt like small victories because they had survived so much together. That evening, they returned to the observation deck. The galaxy outside was silent and magnificent. The distant stars shimmered like tiny jewels scattered across black velvet. For a moment, neither spoke. Words were unnecessary. Finally, Kai broke the silence. "Lyra, I think I meant what I said before. The joke kid wasn't just a joke. I really wanted this. To share this life with you. Not just survive, but thrive. Together." Lyra's smile widened, and she reached for his hand. "I was hoping you'd say that," she said softly. "Because I feel the same way." In that quiet moment, amidst the humming systems and distant stars, they realized something vital. The universe could be vast, unpredictable and dangerous, but humans, together, could face anything. Over the following weeks, they settled fully into life as companions and partners. Kai's quarters became shared living space, with careful organization to accommodate both work and personal comfort. Lyra's presence added warmth and vitality to the colony, a reminder that humanity was more than survival, it was connection. Together, they experimented with new ways to improve the colony. Kai's mechanical expertise and Lyra's biological insight created innovations in energy efficiency, air recycling, and food cultivation. Minor challenges arose: power fluctuations, unexpected debris, and occasional system glitches, but their collaboration turned problems into opportunities. One evening, during a quiet moment, Lyra floated to the observation deck and gestured to the stars. "You know," she said, "we've come so far. From a joke to surviving solar flares, to improving this colony, it feels like we've really made a difference." Kai floated beside her, taking her hand. "We have, and not just in the colony. We've proven something about humans. We adapt, we survive, and we thrive when we trust each other. That's why humans are incredible." Lyra smiled, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. "And why we can face anything together." Outside, the stars remained unchanged, vast, distant, eternal. But inside Orion's reach, humanity thrived. Two humans, connected by trust, courage, and hope, had not only survived the dangers of space, but had shown what it meant to be truly human. Kai looked at Lyra, his heart full. "You know, the universe is huge, dangerous, and lonely. But having you here, it makes it feel like home." Lyra smiled softly, squeezing his hand. "It does, and I think that's what makes humans special. No matter how far we travel, no matter the challenges, we find a way to make life meaningful. We survive, we adapt, and we connect." Kai laughed quietly, leaning back against the wall. "I never thought a joke would lead to this, but I'm glad it did." Lyra nodded. "Me too." The stars outside continued to shimmer, indifferent and eternal. Inside, two humans floated together in a small, fragile colony, surrounded by metal and technology, yet more alive than ever. They had survived, thrived, and connected. And in that vast universe, that was everything Kai and Lyra had discovered: the ultimate truth of human existence. Courage, ingenuity, and connection were the greatest powers in the universe. Machines could calculate probabilities. Technology could sustain life, but only humans could create meaning, build trust, and inspire hope together. They had proven it, and together they would continue to thrive.